Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club categories. With 4 race starts, we're going to start with our category 4 riders, then 3, 2 and 1. You can see our riders lined up in yellow. That is our category 1 riders. In green, our category 2. In blue, category 3 and category 4 riders. Currently, essentially, there are 5 minutes between each.
December today, and away our category 1 riders go. So we are in with Mr. X100. This pack have just started on qualifier race number 3 today. As they push on, they've got our category 2 there, and that little top right hand corner of your screen, viewers, you can start to see a couple of riders just get distance off the back of that category 1 group going through. A really good time trial effort that we've seen other riders use on these courses before, and he's used that tactic to get back in this group, and that's given him the fastest time through. They are the ones who go, oh look, there's a draft, there's a fast draft, and actually there are about 8 category 2 riders in there. 8 doesn't fit into 5
riders in there. We're riding in with Suarez at the moment, but we have a bunch of riders in category 4. Time is running out, and he's going to run out of road if he's not careful.
Yeah, and I think that may well happen today, and we may well see Il Pino and perhaps Spratt too go over the finish line on the road before Vink makes the catch today.
Francis Il Pino, what a ride! He takes the overall race victory. So hello and welcome to the Sunday Race Club, to our monthly final. It is the 25th of December 2022. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas and just have a holiday, I hope you're enjoying your holidays. We are going to be bringing you the Race Club and all of the action in our finals. Maybe somebody's going to get an extra special Christmas present today, because we have a huge prize pot up for grabs. Now, my name is Matt Payne. I'm going to be bringing you all of the action today. I'm joined by Emma Martin in the studio. And Emma, we've seen some amazing qualifiers with some great riders in action, and today promises to be a brutal race.
Yeah, we have seen some amazing qualifying races throughout December. It's great to be with you today. The men's challenge, the final of December, is coming to you from Australia. Here we are on the Wollongong route. So the men today will race 45 kilometres with 700 metres of climbing. There are 3 category 4 climbs today. Now, each of those climbs is 2.4 kilometres in length with an average gradient of 4.5%, but this is so deceptive, as you can see from the route map in front of you. The climb goes up, it comes down, and then it goes up again. That first small climb will top out at around 10%, but the main part of that climb will see gradients of 14-15%. Now, the men today do 2 laps of the Wollongong city route, and then it is indeed 11.8k to the finish, and they finish at the top of that category 4 climb, the climb named Mount Pleasant.
It is indeed. We have 4 categories taking to the start. Our race starts will be 4, 3, 2 and 1 in that order, with the first categories trying to catch all the rest of them. We'll dive in with our category 4 riders first, because they are going to be starting just under 40 seconds time. So let's take a look at our teams. We have the Eagles, we have the mixed breeds teams here, and some strong riders in here.
Yeah, there are indeed. So just 7 riders taken to the start line today in the category 4 race, 2 teams, but we've got some really strong riders. So Finati has had a top 5 this month. Ruiz took top 3 in the finals last month. So some really good riders here in this small pack today.
So let's take these riders out from the start. We're in with Luis Ruiz at the moment. He's going to be trying to be repeating that, maybe even take that top spot. He's up against some tough competition, and we are go on our December finals. The first wave of riders away. It is our category 4 racers who make the way out of the pens and onto our Wollongong route.
So we are in, and this is a rolling route today. There is very little flat on this course for these men today. They will constantly see gradient changes. In fact, the start is the only flat section on this course in its entirety.
it is really, really handy. At least it gives you a chance to get in, but getting into the group key here. You can just see our leading rider at the moment is Hamid at the front with Louis rolling through, but everybody scrambling to stay in that group. You do not want to be distanced at this stage because that is going to put you in trouble. Finati in there, Suarez looks like Ruiz in there, Mendoza looking good at the moment. So let's see who is going to take this on at the front. That's our category 4 riders in the red. The first wave of riders away here on the course. Our category 2, 1, 3, all sat waiting. And this actually adds to the tension and adds to the nerves for the riders. But our category 4 riders with a good start on that flat section, of course, Emma.
Yeah, they have indeed. And look at that. They have indeed had a good start. They are all together. The pack is rolling, and the pack is rolling really well there. So we've got changing riders coming through and off on the front of that group, taking up the pace with the other riders sat behind, taking some recovery and a little draft from those in the lead. This section is moving really nicely. As I mentioned, this is the flattest section of the course, and we will very shortly start to go into the bumps and lumps before they move in at 9.5 kilometres to the base of that first category 4 climb.
So our riders will come around this left-hand bend. There's a slight descent towards the shoreline. We go round on the elevated roadway, effectively cutting around to the right-hand turn. And then we're going to go up on to the climb. That ascent is the first part of the climbing that our riders are going to go in. So here we go. You can see we have our riders ready to roll and waiting in 1, 2, and 3. But the right-hand side of your screen, category 4 in the blue, looking good as they go onto the climb for the first time.
Yeah, so our category 4 jersey riders here, just a small gap at the moment, just being closed down there. Small gap in that pack as they started to hit that gradient at 4.8% coming up and over this bridge. Just stretching this group in this category 4 race. And I think the climbing today is really going to take its toll on the size of the group. This really is a course that just keeps giving to our riders. So in terms of the climbing, 312 meters of climbing today allocated to those category 4 climbs, but 388 meters of climbing on the rest of the course. It is hilly and it is constant, and I think it is really going to start to stretch our groups apart. As we can see in the top right hand corner of your screen at the moment, that group is starting to have riders drop off the back.
It is indeed. And you can see as we look at the screen at the moment, that group have not broken up. But as our category 4 riders start to make their way out on to the next section, they've completed the first climb and are heading out. No real weaknesses showing, the group staying together. Our category 3 riders will be the next riders to go. So they are now less than 1.5 minutes to the start. So let's dive in with the teams in category 3. Our road warriors from the UAE back once again. Team Strikers, the Team Meatballs, and the Fat and Furious, a team I totally identify with on the way in category 3. That is for sure. I love the team names, guys. If you are out there naming your teams, make sure the more imaginative, the better. But another really big race field in this one.
Yeah, so 27 riders on the start sheets today in category 3, 7 teams, and indeed Simeo and Lopez from the Fast and Furious team taking podium positions over the month. So again, that team looking really strong.
And Apple Turnover, Battlers and Psychopath. Good to have the Apple Turnover team back. They've raced previously. Back now that we've got 4 categories, the Battlers and the Psychopath team. And the Psychopath team really strong. 2 Dadsons in there, Mark and Cameron in there together in the same team. So that could be really interesting to see who gets the bragging rights in that team between them. But of course, all of our category riders fighting not just for individual top 5 prizes, but for team prizes as well.
Yeah, indeed. And 12 minutes on the clock for our category 3 riders. We are on the countdown to the start. So as the power goes down and the guys are watching the clock hits and away we go for the MyWhoosh Category 3 December final today. And the Frederick Sorberg at the moment pushing on those pedals, actually really pulling through to make sure that that group moves forward as that group roll out off the start line together.
So our group heading out at 46 kilometres an hour. I just saw they hit the clock as the riders scramble to stay in the wheels. But of course, that is going to yo-yo until they settle down. And that is really a key part of the racing, whether you're in category 4, 3, 2 or 1, isn't it, Emma? Get the start to put your pace down to get you into the pack, but not to yo-yo you out the front or the back. Try and use as little as possible here because you've got a massive, massive amount of climbing and a lot of race route, 45k to do. Getting that start right is key. You can see the distance on the ground. They're separated at the moment by about 2 3/4 kilometres.
They are indeed. And you're right, Matt. Getting that start right and actually judging your pace and judging your distance is really important. And then once you are firmly and securely within that pack, making sure that you take benefit of the draft. We can see on our screens 2 sets of green power numbers. So the watts are actually in green, which indicates that both riders that we're following on our screens are currently well established within the draft and taking the benefit of being in such a large group. Now, these groups today are really key, and the longer they can stay in the group and the longer they can take benefit of the draft before they hit all that climbing is absolutely essential.
However, there is the other option, which is to go on the attack. And we've just seen how many just roll through at the front. But we have seen riders go on the attack. We saw the results of that in our rewind a little bit earlier on for our category 2 rider, Francis Ilpino and Nicholas Spratt. They both actually went clear. And we saw last week Astorga do the same. Category 3 rider went off the front. He pushed on hard and he ended up in the top 5. Effectively, he was, let's face it, he was leading the race for a long, long time, and it gave him some sliding room to come back. So you don't want that group to roll slowly. You want that group to still be moving quickly, don't you?
Yeah, and I think the new start strategy to the Sunday Race Club has produced some really interesting riding and some very different tactics last week to what we see when the complete start happens on its own. And it's going to be interesting today to see what our riders have learnt from last week and how it all plays out in the December final today.
It does indeed. And if we take a look, you can see right-hand side in the red, category 4, left-hand side, category 3, and some very big names in category 3 pushing on. They are on that same first climb at the moment. You see the numbers in the top right-hand side of the left screen. So that is the power screen on the left side of each rider's screen. On the right-hand side is the data of where they are at. And we saw that over 10% climb. It is a nasty first climb on the way in to the start. And that makes a huge difference. So as you can see, we have got a big gap between category 3 and category 2, who still have plenty of time to sit there to get warmed up. The same to category 1, who are currently only, well, they're over 10 minutes away, nearly 12 minutes.
Yeah, indeed. So still just over 11 minutes to the start of our category 1 riders. And of course, everything trying to work out to see if we can get all 4 categories pretty much to the line at the same time. So it's going to be really interesting today on this course because the different start times last week were on a different course. They weren't on the same course as we are on today. So it's going to be interesting to see how our timings play out and how our races evolve.
I'm really looking forward to calling 4 race wave categories simultaneously over the line. Going to be really fun. Now, just taking a look across category 3 and 4, there are 2 categories who are in action at the moment, with category 3 chasing category 4. And as we take a look, Phillips and Lopez just being closed down by Mark Dadson, as well as Parisi in there. Looks like Gill in there as well. Restrepo pushing on, and very quickly getting that gap back down again. Now, every time our riders go on the front, and Emma mentioned it earlier, they go in the draft, they're in green, out of the draft on the front, they're in black. And you want to stay in green as long as possible. Save your energies as much as is physically possible. Now, that is where having that group helps. The bigger the group, the more chance you have to rest in the draft, the less time you're going to spend on the front. Much bigger pack in category 3 than there is in category 4. And that puts category 4 riders at a little bit of a disadvantage. We're going to watch to see how that goes. Remember, when they started off on the course, category 4 had reached the point where they were already 2.75k up the road from category 3. That will continue to change. At the moment, I think they're going to be less than 2.5 kilometers separated. I mean, in fact, it's 2.48 precisely at the moment. There you go.
Indeed, so precisely 2.48 kilometres, which means category 3 is slowly starting to catch category 4, and we are only 5 minutes into that category 3 race. So as we see our riders moving, we're seeing a little push. In fact, we're not seeing a push on the front on category 4. What we're seeing is our Romare here. It's just slightly off the back of that group. We've got one rider further behind at distance from the group as that catch is now made. And in fact, a little bit of a snowball over and through that group by the rider to come in with some adjustment on pace with an attempt now to remain with that group.
And there is the option, of course, if you do get dropped from category 4 to drop into category 3 as they come through and to pick that pace and to try and come back with that. But the rider that's been distanced a little bit is Duvan at the moment. So Duvan Dello at the moment is the rider who has been distanced. And that is going to make things very interesting for the team because Duvan at the moment is a minute down on the rest of the group. But he's riding for that Eagles team with Hamid in there as well as Andres. But they are up against the mixed breeds. And of course, the team category prizes are good prizes. It's serious money at stake. So you're going to want to get up there. The difference between first and second category is reasonably substantial. First and second in each category is substantial. That means that you really are going to be digging as deep as you can. But anything can happen. Of course, we've seen plenty of riders go out hard and then blow later on. So maybe better to be on the safe side as we see Rodel Astorga start to move. Our category 3 race just starting to get a little bit more spicy. Remember that Rodel Astorga was the rider who had been on the attack last week and in our first of our qualifiers had got that big gap, but that was a route, last week's race route, little bump to start off with, then it was relatively flat with a final climb. But Dadson at the moment is a rider on the attack now, and Parisi is the one having to close that gap down.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch, isn't it, as Dadson pushes on. Parisi, Simier is there too. And these are the riders and these are the names we would expect to see here coming to the fore of this category 3 race. Lopus, Restrepo as well. Dromard is in there, Florian Dromard too. Now, we've seen these names and these are the names that are regularly within the top 5. In fact, Astorga took the win in the final round qualifier last week. So these are the riders we would really expect to see making the play, and they really are making the play this morning as we see that category 3 race stretch out now into multiple small groups, all trying to fight to come back to Dadson and Parsi, who are at the front of that group.
They are indeed, and look at this. Parisi pushing with Dadson in there. They're trying to clear here because you can just see that extra little impetus being put into the kick. So 4 trying to stay working pretty well as a team. Category 3 breaking up with Dadson. Category 2, well, we're in 1 minute 40 for them to go, so not long before Category 2 are going to be hitting our race start. Let's have a look at who is going to be on the start line and heading out in our teams. We have our UAE Falcons team, always a team to watch with Hassan Al-Ramethri in there. We've got X-Pro with Milano in there and Arrego. We've got the Mischiefs, of course, with Carl Salius as well as Toretto. And, of course, we've got the Chasers cycling team. And they've got on board some really strong riders, including Fabio Rodriguez. But quite a number of teams in the race at the moment with Crazy Horses, Draft and Hubbards, the Crazy Horses team. I mean, Moreno and Garrito Maglio, that is a strong squad. The Draft squad, Henning and Giuliano, but Tom Gates and Cadiz, again, really strong. And Hubbards, Acker, Krasnich, Ilpino. This is going to be some battle, Emma.
Yeah, I think there are at least 3 teams there in this group of 7 teams on the start line of the Category 2 race that could actually take the win today. So it's going to really come down to race tactics and how that plays out with 30 Category 2 riders on the start sheets today.
So our Category 2 riders going to be taking to the start. It's going to be a frantic start today with those strong teams in Category 2 here on the December finals on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club. Who is going to get a fast start? Is anybody going to attack from the gun and look to take this out and do what we saw Il Pino do last week and take the win? Remember, the overall winner in the racing in our final qualifier came from our Category 2 riders with Francis Ilpino, who is back with us today. Will it be Ilpino's race? They're on the race route. Let's see what happens.
So we're in with Adam Wicks today, one of our individual riders in this group of Category 2 racers for the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club December final. As we're just seeing a dropout there, what looks like a dropout for one of our riders as he picks back up the pace. Oh, difficult timing, but something that does happen to our riders, and they do need to be aware of it, and they do need to be able to pick up and respond. So the sprint now for Ishmael back onto the back of that group is absolutely key. Working exceptionally hard. Van der Velden pushing now, really trying to close that gap down and get back into contention with that group ahead.
Well, this is going to be key for Ishmael van der Velden. He's got to push. He's got to push hard. It could have been a slip chain. He could have come unclipped if he's sprinting out. You know, it's very easy to lose all power because basically you unclip out the pedals. I mean, people actually do crash on their turbo train, and it can be done, you know, if you're sprinting really hard. But if the riders are looking to distance Ishmael, they need to work hard now. It's a chasing cycling team, though. Shouldn't be working on the front. They should be looking to see whether they can get Ishmael back into the fold here. They're going to have to make a tactical decision here. Do they drop back and work as a team, or do they let Ishmael wait for the next category of riders to come? And can he then hang in? We're in with Carl Taiselis. If you want to see Carl Taiselis' setup, don't forget, of course, you can go jump on to the YouTube channel and onto social media and catch up with just how well he sets up. So of our 4 categories, 3 categories are racing, 1 category sat in the pens. That is our Category 1 riders. Category 2 about to hit the first climb. Category 3 at nearly a 7K. Category 4 a bit further down the road still. So here we go. Let's get these riders up onto the climb, and then we'll be dropping back to our next category to start. But this is a big bunch, Emma, and they're going to hit this climb pretty much together with only 1 rider, I think, distanced at the moment.
Yeah, and we're currently in with Tom Gates at the moment, and it's going to be really interesting to see what these rolling climbs and what this first climb actually does to this group, because it is a really large group on the road today, and we can start to see them push up. The gradient's now topping over 9% as we start to see a little bit of a gap, and that top right hand screen is really useful for this. You can start to see the blob really start to stretch into riders just start to get distance off the back of that group. So this climb is starting to impact on this race today.
So let's dive in with our final group of riders, our Category 1 riders. We've got some very strong teams in Category 1, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see who can take it out from Category 1 riders, because those teams are strong, the riders are strong, and we know that they have the highest power numbers. They're the riders who have proved themselves time and time again. We expect to be at the front, and of course, riders in teams like the Pavlovas, the Waffles, the Candy Canes, Gelato, Yorkshire Pudding Express, the UAE Clan team. They are riders who we know are going to excel. So Category 1 riders with less than a minute and a half to our race start. Let's see if we can have a look at our race teams in Category 1, and that will give us a good indication of who's going to be taking that start. We're just in with Jakob here on the start line. So the team's looking good. So the UAE Clan team, headed, of course, by Mr. X100, their road captain. The Belgian Waffle squad, Lionel Vujassin, the standout rider there so far this season, but watch out for him as we move on. Pavlova squad with the one and only Michael Vink. Is he going to be the rider who can take away top spot? He's got a challenge on his own team as well. The Swedish Candy Canes, we've got Olivier Simmons and Jakob Björklund should be battling for that top spot in the team. A Gelato squad from Italy. Well, Lucas Nasca has been riding incredibly strongly, as has Johan Noren. And never discount the Yorkshire Pudding Express, Phil Graves, Mitch Ferry, and Zach Nair. One of our veteran teams. They've been around pretty much since the dawn of MyWhoosh. Let's see who's going to be taking that on, and some more strong individuals as well, Emma.
Yeah, so we've got 32 riders in this category today on the start sheet. 6 teams as you've gone through, Matt. And I think the team competition is going to be so interesting here today as we see them battle for the individual, but also the team competition. So we are in with Syed Safrazad at the start of this Category 1 race for the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club December final. and the power goes down, and these riders are away. They are away on this flat section, allowing them to the group to form, allowing them to take the draft off this start before the hills and the rolling nature of this course really starts to play.
So the riders away and racing on Sunday Race Club. This is going to be a real battle. They have got a lot of time and a lot of distance to make up if they want that overall win. However, of course, the prizes are in top 5 in the individual categories in each category, and of course, top 5 teams. So let's see which teams are going to come out at the top of the standings. Which of our riders can take away top spot? The man to beat overall in category 1 is Michael Vink. He's absolutely I was going to say unstoppable, but that's not quite true. I'm sure there's no such thing when it comes to bike racing. We see everybody has their weaknesses, particularly if a rider has been working hard and training hard. And that's the thing with Michael Vink now moving into the pro race. He's a very different set of demands on his training time, and that could play out as this bunch continue to race, because some people, of course, specializing just in racing on the esports.
Yeah, so we've got a real mix in this peloton. You know, we've got riders who specialise in esports, riders who race on the road as well as esports, riders who are mountain bikers, triathletes, orienteers, ex-rowers. We've got a real mix of elite athletes in this field who have taken to racing on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. And it means that there's something for everybody, and it also means that there are different powers and different strengths at play here. Vink is definitely the man on form in category 1, having won all of the 3 December qualifiers and the November final. But I do think there is a project underway to beat Michael Vink. There has to be some real strategizing now going on in these teams to think, how do we take the win?
Well, Mr. X100 is nicely tucked in. He's a road captain for the UAE clan team. And Mr. X100, not only is he a master of drafting, but he's also a master of tactics as well. He is a rider who we know is going to be looking to get that clan team up there. You know we've seen him work so hard to make that team a success. And he really is the linchpin upon which that whole team is based. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that category 1 develops as a race within itself and how it battles out against the 4 categories you can see on your screen at the moment. Now, category number 1, they are at 11.26 kilometers out on, so category 4 at 11.26k on the course, category 3 at 10k. We've got 5k on the clock for category 2, and just approaching the 2k marker for category 1. 4 categories racing, 4 different race starts, 1 race finish, 1 checkered flag at the end. Will it be our category 1 riders who take that away? We're in with Bart van den Eekhout. Eekhout, another of our regular riders here. Will Bart, for the Belgian Waffle Squad, be able to be the man who masterminds the unpinning of Michael Vink's winning run?
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? As we are just about to start to see a little bit of movement by Michael Knudsen on the front, Pablo Popovic just covering him. Just a little stretch of the legs there, I think, from Knudsen. Just seeing what the group want to do behind, just stretching the blob of riders out a little bit and allowing it to concertina back in as the gradient just starts to go upwards as we just move into this climbing section.
So round that turn we've come. Who is going to be in trouble? Well, at the moment, doesn't look like anybody being detached from the blob on our screens. However, this is a fast pace. If we look top left-hand side of your screen, you can see that we have the data box for our individual rider. So 300 plus watts at the moment for Wilhelm Buschmuller. You can see his pedal cadence 78, a drop into 63. You can see every movement of each rider. We're in with Mr. X100 now. Heart rate 123. Typically low for Mr. X100, has a relatively low heart rate compared to some of the other riders. 34, 36, 37k, yo-yoing up and down the clock, showing how fast he's gone. And top left-hand side, that's power to weight ratio in watts per kilo. On the top left-hand side of the screen shows you how well he's likely to be performing compared to the weight. So its power to weight ratio is watts per kilo. You can see that is individual to each rider on the top left hand side of the screen, top right hand side of each of our screens. And we've got two different categories on screen, you can see the map profile. So as those riders start to get closer together, we'll start to see very similar parts, of course, on there. But at the moment, the category one go around a right-hand bend, category two on a dead straight. But look at this. We are about to see the first catch, I think, being made here. Duvan on to this steep section of climb here. And you can see the category three riders here on the way up past and just catching Duvan here, the first of our fourth category riders to be caught, and he will get a little bit of assistance in terms of draft on the way past, but they've caught him on the steep section of climb here, 17.5%.
Yeah, and that is indeed the first of our category 4 climbs today. And that climb does get really steep indeed, as you mentioned there, Matt, 17%, really steep and really kicking. And they have category 3 riders have just gone past the back of the category 4 race. Though to the front of the category 4 race, there is around another kilometre separating the back of the Cat 4 to the front of the Cat 4. So those Cat 3 riders have a little bit further to go to catch the rest of that category 4 field.
And at the front of category 3, we're seeing some real race action. Bruno Simeo just up there with Eduardo Parisi. We're just in with Parisi, who's just been passed by Simeo. So Simeo being the rider on the attack. Parisi went on the attack early. Simeo closed him down. Looks like Phillips and Restrepo not all that far behind. But this category 3 ride is spread out. But look at category 4 here, over the top, and they are pushing on. They are not necessarily taking it easy. You look at Leda and Michael at the moment. They what's a yo-yoing as they work their way up and down, but this is a quick descent and a quick ascent again.
Yeah, so Mendoza and Suarez really pushing on at the front of that category 4 race and starting to establish a little bit of a gap. I think they've got, let me just take a quick look, they've got Acevedo with them as well, and then it's looking like a 40-second gap. So it's looking like 3 riders now clear on that category 4 race.
So our leaders in category 4 over the climb, on the descent, well on the way down off the mountain, off Mount Pleasant. Category 1 are chasing, and they are at the moment are in nearly at 5K, but that's a long way to climb. And there's actually quite a lot of hills and a lot of bumps on the way in as well. Category 2 are 8K and nearly 12K for category 3. So it's all spread out at the moment. And look at this, category number 1, our fastest category. They are moving at 51 kph on the front of that bunch. And you can just see everybody working very, very hard at the moment. Interesting to see Phil Graves right up in the mix with Mitch Ferry.
Yeah, it is indeed. And we've got Safrasad and Osborne, Ferry, and Mel, Knudsen and Bushmuller. We've got a real range of really strong riders in here today. Pablo Popovic just coming through, Martin Martins as well, you know, Bart van der Neckhout. These riders are names we see week in and week out putting in outstanding performances.
Yeah, just seen Osborne and Vink and Martins. You know, it's a real who's who, as we find on the finals. So, left-hand side of your screen was category 1. Right-hand side, we're seeing some action. Category 2, looking really good. Francis Ilpino on the attack. Oh, so here we go. Is this where we see that move coming from Ilpino? He's at 8.85K covered. Emma, he's not far off the climb, is he?
He's not at all. So 9.5 kilometres is where we start to see that climb kick up. And Ilpino there being joined by Maglio. Maglio not letting Ilpino have it all his own way. He knows he's a danger on the road because Ilpino top 5 in the November finals and has had some really strong performances through the December qualifiers. In fact, took the win last week in the final qualifier of December. So one of the marked riders in this race today.
He is indeed. And Maglio riding for that Crazy Horses team. Ilpino riding for Hubbards. So 2 riders from 2 teams may well mean that behind that the riders in those 2 teams shut down. They don't do too much work on the front, and they let the rest of the teams chase, which will wear the rest of the teams' legs out. Because remember, of course, those team prizes are added to the individual prizes. Riders will take prizes in both the individual and the team if their team scores well enough. Now, Category 1, we're in with Saeed Safrazad at the moment and Johan Noren at the moment. So you can just see Noren nicely tucked in that group, working well. And I don't think realistically these riders are going to be too troubled by this pace at the moment. The heart rates, if you look at them, I mean, Mr. X100 has a legendary low heart rate. That's always down. But the rest of the riders with a low heart rate as well, really an indication. And that and the fact that it's a big blob on the road, that they're not on the attack, that they're looking to just make time up at the moment.
Yeah, so we would see Mr. X100's heart rate at a really strong push and towards the end of the race, hitting at about 164, 165, which is, as you say, Matt, a lot lower than some of our other riders. So, for example, Knudsen, we've seen Knudsen's heart rate go to 203. But those heart rates are individual and the ranges are very different. But riders knowing what their heart rate is and where their comfortable levels are and where their pushing levels are. We've talked before, haven't we, about Vink time trialing off the front and his heart rate moving 1 or 2 beats in a 20-minute time trial effort. Sitting on a pace, sitting on a heart rate, and knowing exactly what you can ride to is key.
So Category 1 at the moment altogether. Category number 2, looking like we are seeing a repeat of previous race tactics by Francis Ilpino, being chased this time by Christian Maglio. Category 3, well, they are looking very strong. And Category 4 continues to work together at the front, but distance a little bit further back as Jason Osborne is looking like he's just rolling through the front there. Jason Osborne, of course, a rider who has got a pro contract for a World Tour team, former Olympic rower. And of course, a rider who we know is more than capable of taking victory here today. Will he be the rider to take on Michael Vink? Well, be interesting if he does, because Osborne, Vink, Knudsen, along with Jones, all on the same team.
Well, November's final in Wollongong, Matt, Osborne took 4th place in that event. So this is a course he obviously likes and obviously suits him.
It is indeed. Well, today's course suit Francis Ilpino as much. We saw him take the win overall as well as the category win last week in our final qualifier, the first of the races that had our split starts. He is riding strongly.
Yeah, and look at the stretch on that peloton behind, trying to bring him in. You know, Angarita, Cadiz, Giuliano, Kranich, none of them are letting him go. Cadiz really starting to pull, and that pack are starting to pull him back together again as they've gone down the descent on the first section of that Category 4 climb and are now finding themselves on the really steep slopes of Mount Pleasant.
So this is the chase. This is the push. They've got to get Pinot back. Pinot working well. It's 4 seconds, but just as importantly, you can see it on the climb. And when you're riding and racing, that is important. If you can see your quarry, you can see your target. You know how much work you have to do. You know that the distance is deceptive on the climb. Steeper the climb, slower the speed, the less physical distance between the riders, even though the time gap is the same. Once you go over the top, you go to a descent, the distance will spread out. Now, our leaders at 11.19 in Category 2. The lead of Category 1 who are chasing, they are still approaching 9K. So they're still 2.25 kilometers behind our Category 2 leader. This is going to be very interesting. We are seeing that move as a solo rider for Pinot, trying to stay clear.
Yes. So Pinot still establishing that lead, still on that climb, not over the top yet. But when he does get to the top of that climb and he goes over, the momentum that's going to go with him is only going to elongate that distance between that group in that Category 2 race.
Definitely. And just taking a little bit of a look down, I think we've seen a little bit more action now again in category number 4. So we can just see on category 4, we have 3 leaders who are just starting to break, I think, a little bit off the front. We're just going to take a little bit of a check here. We're just watching the numbers, and the gap has opened. These are your 3 leaders in category number 4. They have a gap, and that gap has really opened up. The question will be, can they stay clear? It's currently hovering around about a minute and a half to the chasers behind. So it's a substantial lead as they go out on to their second second time heading in towards that climb after the start line.
Yeah, and it's looking, Matt, actually like they've extended their lead on the front of the Category 3 race as well, because that Category 3 race had come down to 1.2k difference. And I think we're now looking at about 1.6k difference. So all credit to those Category 4-3 riders who have gone off the front of that race. They have pushed on, and they've pushed not only in a race lead in the Category 4 race, they started to put a little bit more distance into that Category 3 front bunch as well.
So it's certainly looking like Castano in that group working well for the Eagles team, but behind, this is the group that are chasing. And this, again, has whittled down. They've gone over that climb. It was a big, big bunch. I mean, that Category 3 race start. How many riders were there in Category 3 in total, Emma?
27 riders on the start sheets today.
Wow, that's not 27 riders in that group. Not even close at the moment. And this is very interesting that one of the riders who has been distanced is Ruddle Astorga, the rider who went clear at the front last week.
I know, and it's really interesting, isn't it? The tactics, and people have thought about how to race this differently. But I always think, Matt, our monthly finals race different because of the team competition, and the team competition that isn't there during our qualifiers really adds a very different dynamic to the racing, because riders are talking to each other, team members are talking to each other, and they are deciding tactics before the race, and they're adjusting tactics in the race.
They are indeed, and if you think that Storga and is sitting sort of 16th place, that is a very different race. Now, at the front of category number 1, you can see Knudsen, Bushmillers, and Asker Panizzi, Simmons, Nair, Osborne. There are a big group. Again, I think we've lost a number of riders just off the back of that group. Pablo Popovic, though, has rolled the momentum through nicely, but the bunch is going to be coming up behind. But you can see from the graphic top right-hand side, it's a long, strung-out group as the chasers behind you use that downhill to try and pile into the group. Let's see who's going to be able to attack at the front of Category 1.
So our Category 1 riders now well and truly on Mount Pleasant. They've gone over the first climbing segment, they've descended off the first peak, and now they hit the steep sections. The climbs and the gradients are now 16-17% as these riders plow in a large group to these steep sections and take this left-hand sweeping bend.
They do indeed, and at the moment, Michael Knudsen on the attack here. I say on the attack, he's clearly pushing good numbers. I don't think it is a race-winning start attack where you maybe see somebody go off at double digits going up into the 8, 9, 10, 11 watts per kilo. Very quick attack, but you can see they're now starting to catch Category 2 riders. So the first of the Category 2 riders being caught by the Category 1, but there's going to be lots of people catching each other out on the course, with our fastest riders, in theory, starting at the back, and in theory, the riders are going to catch starting at the front. So the riders making the way up the start, as Emma just comprehends that I've actually said that the right way around, always entertaining to make sure we get it right. So Category 1, the fastest riders making the way up the start, and you can see left-hand side, that's Category 1 in yellow, Category 2 in green, Category 3 in blue, and Category 4 in the red, all at different points on the course. And that gap, we have 3 leaders in Category 3 being chased by Category 4 being chased by Category 3, but they're all up against it, because it looks to me like we have got a very, very strong Category 1 performance today. They're coming up towards the top of the climb. Remember that this, of course, is a dress rehearsal for the finish, because the finish is at the top of the climb. This is their first of 3 ascents to the top. We will then have that intermediate, the middle ascent, and then our final ascent will be the race for the finish itself. So this is key. And one of the things we talk about very much on the Wollongong course is that it is a very sharp transition over the top of, particularly at the top of Mount Pleasant, between ascending and descending. And if there is a little bit of a gap, you are going to get caught out and you're going to be distanced.
Yes, you are indeed, as the pace changes and this large group of Category 1 riders goes over for the first time today the top of Mount Pleasant. Now they drop and they descend a little bit, and then there is a little kicker before the main descent. Now from the top of Mount Pleasant to the base of the next time up it, it's a 13.9 kilometre transition section. And as we have already seen today, it is not a flat transition. It is a bumpy, hilly, rolling transition that the riders still have to work quite hard on. It's not a course where a lot of rest can be taken. As we can see that Knudsen has gone over the top of Mount Pleasant in first place, and he's dropping and descending and continuing to push on those pedals and establishing a small gap there with Popovic and Panizza just behind with Jones and Vujasin and Noren, a large chase group, but he has got a small gap.
He has now. Key moment on the way down here. We descend down. If we stay with Category 1, what it will show us is as we go down, there is a key moment. And that is when we come towards the very end. There is a rise and then a drop, which weakens people's legs if they've just got jellied legs over that descent, which is really easy to do. Then there is a spiral back on the overpass, where the riders go underneath the route, spiral round in a left-hand turn in an anti-clockwise direction, then rise back up onto the top. That is a point where Michael Vinck has attacked every single race.
I know it is a deceptive part of the course, but tactically a really important one. And you're right, we have seen Vinck use that to his benefit and take that as the attack point in each race. And here we are seeing indeed the damage that can be done actually going up and over the climb.
Indeed, and it can really spread out. So 4 categories of racing, 1 and 2, 1 in yellow, 2 in green, separated on the road at the moment by what is about 2.2k. So that distance hasn't come down. Bearing in mind that both sets of riders are now down off the mountain for the first time. They come down off Mount Pleasant. This is that long run here, and very difficult to get away at this point. But it looks to me like we've detached a couple of riders off the back of this group, and that could well be the case that that's 2 more team members who are having to work to chase to get back in. And of course, those team prizes are key. But the big thing here, Michael Knudsen, I'm looking at that time gap. Knudsen is showing as 15 seconds plus up the road. And it's going to be for all of the rest of the teams to chase, except for these riders, Ollie Jones, Jason Osborne, and Michael Vinck, because they're teammates of a certain Mr. Knudsen. And that means that Knudsen is just giving those 3 riders, 3 of the most dangerous riders in the bunch, an easier ride, because there's no pressure really to put in any kind of work to catch them back. Now, left-hand side of your screens, we've just seen some of our riders who have been distanced from the front of the race group, and we're seeing riders start to be distanced off the back of the race group as it's gone over the top right-hand side of your screen. This is our leaders in Category 2. They've still got a good gap here, and I'll tell you something, the team standings will be very difficult to work out. So here we go. We've got Mitch Ferry working off the back of the group here. You've got Jakob Bjorklund in front. These riders in trouble here. I think they are key team counters.
Yeah, they are indeed.
For their teammates.
They are indeed. So Mitch Ferry from the Yorkshire Pudding Express is in trouble, just dropping off the back here. Bush Muller from the Swedish Candy Canes as well in trouble here. Oliver Simmons, Swedish Candy Canes too. So we're seeing some teammates in trouble here, not being able to stay with the pace of that Category 1 race. As we turn to the split screen in front, Knudsen is down the road. Popovic is pushing on, and it looks like Popovic and Ollie Jones are the 2 pushing on to try and bring
Knudsen back. Yeah,
Knudsen
you're
back.
right. You are right. You are just seeing a little bit of a move. We're just jumping in with Pablo Popovic now. So Ollie Jones has gone with Popovic. So what I suspect has happened, and I stand to be corrected, is that Ollie Jones has marked out Pablo Popovic. Popovic has gone to chase Jones's teammate. Jones has gone, yeah, you want to go after him? I'm going to sit on your wheel. And in between, Henning and Tysalius, two Category 2 riders sandwiched in between our leader in Category 1 and the chasers behind. And now SS taking up the chase. So SS and Popovic have gone, do you know what? We need to get up there. Or maybe it's Mr. X100 on Discord going, get up there. The communication channel that is used by just about every team to keep everybody running. I think this is going to be really interesting because this is the UAE clan team now putting in a very, very obvious chase here because Popovic, we just see Mr. X100 up there. We are seeing SS up there. We're seeing these riders look to close this down. Now Vink goes on the front, and Vink has said, well, if you're going to start to go across, tell you what, I can go across too. I can join my teammate, bearing in mind that his teammate's up the road in front of him.
Yeah, and that indeed was where I was struggling there, Matt, because on our screens it's as though Knudsen has overtaken a whole raft of
He
back
has.
markers
Yep.
in Category 2 and Category 3. And I was a little concerned and hesitant there that actually Knudsen had come back to the group, but no, it's now looking like the gap is over 30 seconds.
So now this group coming up on Carl Tysalius and Marcelo Henning. Now, both these riders are smart. Watch what they're doing. They are jumping in with Category 1. They're seeing the Category 1 bunch coming, and they're going, that's my ride up there. And we saw that last week. We saw when riders were dropped, if they were smart, they waited, they didn't put too much effort in, then they jumped in with a group, and they used that group to take themselves back into contention. Tysalius and Hennig, they're sat in that group now. They're not going to do a turn on the front. The Category 1 riders won't care whether they do a turn or not, but they are now chasing, and they're going to try and use this group to catch back Francis Ilpino, because that is the way to ride it. Jump in with the group. Category 1 are catching riders in Category 2, 3, etc. Now, Jones on the move, trying to chase down Knudsen and get across to his teammate. But Michael Knudsen is a rider with the gap. We can see that Acker and Carvalho behind 9 and 25 seconds behind. They're still in front of Ollie Jones. So Jones, the nearest rider to come across to Knudsen, but it's Knudsen who is leading Category 1 at the moment.
Yeah, and as Knudsen pushes on, you know, he is a virtual Everesting champion and has ridden the Red Bull Trans-Siberian Extreme. So, you know, he is used to working hard and he's used to difficult conditions. And Knudsen has really put the gauntlet down today and said, you know what, Vink? I know we're teammates and this may well be a team tactic that we're watching, but it's my turn and I'm going off the front today.
Well, he's gone off the front. He's opened a gap. I mean, he can stop for a quick espresso on the way round and then jump back in with a bunch. He's got that kind of gap. It's not quite latte distance at the moment, but it's definitely espresso distance. Not even maybe a double espresso if he's really quick between him and the riders behind. Coffee gaps are a thing, believe me, when you're racing. So at the moment, Knudsen with that gap, you can see the distance on the road. It's about 600 meters between those riders. And that takes some closing down. Again, we see Mr. X100 come up over the top and start to lead the pursuit of Michael Knudsen. But Knudsen is the man on the move at the moment, and those gaps have opened up behind him. So this will be very telling. Can Knudsen do a thing?
Yeah, and looking at Knudsen's numbers there, he's just got to do that time trial effort. He's got to get his pace set and he's just got to ride to it, regardless of the terrain that is under his wheels, because that is indeed how we see these attacks stick and how these riders go away. They pick their pace. They know exactly how to manage it and they modulate that pace in that way. Then they're relying on the group behind looking at each other and the group behind not wanting to push on because they're worried about what others are doing and what other team tactics are, and they're riding their race. And in the meantime, Knudsen's just getting even further away.
He is indeed. If we take a little look at the screens at the moment, Michael Knudsen leading Category 1 on the left. Second from the left is Francis Ilpino leading Category number 2. Your leading riders in Category number 3 are together. That is the bunch of blue riders. Lador, Ruddle, Mendoza. I think this group of 2 riders are the riders in second and third place in Category 4. I think up the road from them is Andres Castano Acevedo, but I'm not going to quote me on that. But I think it may be that they're actually together as a group of riders in the race. So the race really is in progress. 45k the distance in total, 20k covered for Michael Knudsen, our Category 1 leader, who is ahead and has riders between him and the rest of the group. And the moment for that breakaway is critical, because one of the things you've seen him do is he went over the top, but he knew that in front of him were riders that he could take advantage of on the way through. If you go too early in Category 1, you've got 7 minutes of dead air between you and the riders. As soon as you start to catch riders, you've got air that you can drop into, some dirty air, some air that's got some draft in it, to start working your way through those riders one by one by one. We call them breadcrumbs, a bit like that Hansel and Gretel trail, because they're there for a little while and then they get snaffled up. So you've got to make the most of them when they're there. Otherwise, you won't find your way to where you want to be.
No, but look at the work Knudsen is forcing this group to do behind Matt, because Vink has pushed on the front. Popovic is moving through, Vidal Mayer and Johan Noren. These riders are all pushing on. SS is there as well. They don't want Vink to go too, but Vink has pushed on. And this group, this large bunch of yellow jerseyed riders that were across the road are now stretched thin, as they're like, me too, I'm not letting that wheel go, and really pushing this pace.
Yeah, real nail-biting stuff here. Michael Knudsen in the lead. Behind, though, his action has provoked responses behind, and Michael Vink now starting to make everybody else work. If they're easing off and just taking it easy, then Vink senses that, he goes on the attack. Then we see SS, we see X100, the UAE clan team working to bring those gaps down. They want to keep it together. They want that team prize. They want the bragging rights of being the best team on MyWhoosh today, with the fastest time for their best 3 riders. And that's what counts, your best 3 riders. Now, 4 categories racing. Category 1 are at the moment the fastest riders on the course. But I had a little look at the race times from last week. It was very interesting. The top 8 riders or so, in terms of overall fastest times to cover the course, were Category 1. But then Francis Alpino had about the 9th fastest time, I think it was, overall. But that is reflected because he was up there, and it was a mountaintop finish with 1 climb to finish, which blew the race apart and put big time gaps in between all of our riders, irrespective of category.
Yeah, we had very different racing last week, though, didn't we? Because of a large section of flatland meant we had groups in each category, and big groups in each category for a long time. That has not happened this week. Each of the groups in each category, you can see by these Category 1 riders now weaving their way through 1s, 2s and 3s of the Category 2 field, that this course has just split these race riders apart.
It has, and that's one of the things that, I mean, in theory, you'd think off the top, all the way down to the bottom, that's Draft City, hang on to the group, all the way through, it's only little bumps. They are not little bumps. As Emma pointed out at the start of the show, we have more climbing on the rest of the course than we have on all of the climbs put together that are categorized. And that is not because those categorized climbs are small. It's because this is one heck of a hilly course.
Yeah, it is indeed. And we are seeing Vink go again with SS and Popovic. We've got Ollie Jones in there as well. These Category 1 riders are not letting the pace drop. You know, Knudsen's over 500 metres down the road ahead of these Category 1 riders. And now this race is on behind as we drop in with Knudsen there. In fact, it's looking like the only Category 2 rider now ahead of Knudsen is Alpino. So Knudsen has worked his way through the entire Category 2 field as SS goes over the top of, and so does Popovic of Vink, and the pace is really on at the front of this Category 1 bunch.
Well, normally you would say a solo rider time trialing will go clear of a group that is attacking and then stopping and then attacking, because that yo-yo pace, the average pace on an attack and a break and an attack and a break and an attack and a break, is generally less than the average pace of one rider on a solo effort. It's only when the groups work together behind that they get close. But the attacking is so frantic, in the bunch behind Michael Knudsen that they're holding the gap to Knudsen down. He's got a little bit more time than he had, but it's not a huge amount. He's not time trialing away, maybe at the rate that we would normally expect. And that is purely because he is seeing so much aggression behind as these riders continue to attack each other. But as you say, Francis Ilpino is the only Category 2 rider in front of him. That is some going. Meanwhile, let's dive in with one of our categories a little bit ahead on the road. This is our third category leading group. We've got Heath Eckersley, Michael Phillips, Edward Parisi, Mark Dadson, Maurizio Lopez, Andres Restrepo, and co. It's a huge pack of Category 3 riders. And at 26.6k, if my maths is correct, they're on the big climb.
Yeah, so the second time up, the climb starts at 26.1 kilometres. They are indeed 500 metres into the second time up Mount Pleasant. And 7 riders, it's looking like, Matt, in this lead group for the Category 3 race.
And there are 7 riders, soon to be 6 in front of them in terms of Category 4 riders. As Phillips makes his way up past one, and then another's going to go overtake Luis Ruiz at the moment. And he's going to have basically 3 riders in front very shortly because all of the riders are relatively close together. Hamid just being passed there by Michael Phillips. Hassan Al-Harari are going to be a little bit further up the road, about 13 seconds. That is certainly closable, but Ledo, Andres, and Michael, the top 3 riders in Category 4 on the right-hand side of your screen, have that gap to the leaders in Category 3. So there's still going to be, I think, as they go over the top, 3 riders in Category 4 ahead of chasing group of 7 riders in Category 3. Category 2 leader is the solo Il Pino on the right of your screen, and the solo leader of Category 1 has just overtaken him, and that is on the left of your screen. So Knudsen and Il Pino, the 2 leaders in 1 and 2, have just exchanged positions, but Il Pino has a substantial gap back to Maglio. Maglio, though, will get an advantage now because that big pack of Category 1 riders are coming behind, and they have got riders in there who are hitching a lift with that express train. They've jumped onto the caboose at the back, and they are on the way up to the rest of the group. If they can hang in with this group of Category 1, very, very difficult. And it looks to me at the moment on the screen like they've not managed to do it. I'm struggling to see a single Category 2 now able to stay with the pace. It's that hot in Category 1.
Yeah, it is indeed a really hot pace, and those Category 2 riders who we saw trying to hang in with them have gone off the back, and well and truly off the back, because this pace is really motoring. We're watching Pablo Popovic here, 57 kph this pack are moving at the moment, just slightly on a descent. They are 25 kilometres into this race and 37 minutes of racing gone, but this pace is remaining really fast and furious in this Category 1 race.
Well, Fast and Furious in Category 1. Remember, of course, the teams all the way through, including Fat and Furious, my favourite team name ever.com, apart from all the pudding references everywhere else. And remember, those team prizes up for grabs. Now, we're going to see the catch here. This is the big group being caught here by Michael Vig and SSI Safrazad, the front of the bunch of Category 1, taking advantage of the fact that there is a draft coming off the back of Category 2. They have seen that target in front, and they're hoping for the confusion now on the way through to maybe spring them clear of the rest of the pack. Meanwhile, the rest of this group are going to be going, right, let's make the most of this. We've got a chance to really close down on Francis Ilpino, on Maglio in front. And now this group is all mixed together. This is the chasers in 2 and the chasers in 1. They're chasing Knudsen and Ilpino, the leaders of Category 1 and 2. So Michael Knudsen, the race leader for Category 1, on the right-hand side of your screen, he's worked his way up to 20th position. 19 riders still in front, including some very fast-moving Category 4 and 3 riders.
Yeah, it's looking now like Knudsen is coming up to being around 650 metres ahead of this chasing group. So he's pushed his lead out even further. But I think this is going to get tricky now, because this Category 2 pack mixed with a Category 1 ride chasing group is going to get a little bit messy, I think, and riders are going to have to be really astute and to pay attention to what's going on around them.
They are. It's definitely a case that they can't afford to be melodramatic about where they are in that pack. They need to be very, very focused and only look for the drama that they need to follow rather than following anything that is unnecessary, anything that's over the top. They want to make sure they're focused on exactly what they're doing out there because this is so busy now as we come in. The timing is really good because we are coming onto the climb right when those two groups have come together. And that means it's going to be about power to weight, not about draft. And that should favour category one in shedding category two riders. If it was on the descent, it wouldn't be so critical. They may well have had those category two riders there for longer, but because they've caught them on the way into the climb, that should reduce that time. Meanwhile, look at the speed of Knudsen. He's continuing to push. Even on this downhill, we're seeing 4.3, 4.2 watts per kilo on a descent and into a gradual climb. That shows that he is not easing off that much. He's resting a little bit, but he's not backing right off the power on the descent.
No, Knudsen is tapping out a really nice pace at around 5 watts per kilo, slightly over, slightly under, but holding that heart rate really steady. And he's establishing that lead as these riders' pace keeps changing. We keep seeing really hard power coming down from this group, and then they lift off and let off the power, and then they go again. But Matt, I think you're right. We are about to see the split of this category one group from that category two group that they caught, because I think it will be really difficult for any of those category two riders to stay with these as we start to see attacks and we start to see this group spread out as Popovich and Osborne and Near really start to work and start to stretch this group, because they know Knudsen is down the road. And that means even if they don't make the catch, there's only 4 prizes left in that individual prize pot. And the team competition is really to play for.
It is, and it's going to be very, very tight indeed because the Pavlova squad, the Danish Pavlova squad, they are our repeat winners. They are repeatedly the team who are taking away the big prizes in the race, and they do get dislodged on occasions, particularly in the qualifiers. But come the big occasion, then out comes the Waffle squad, the Pavlova's challenge, the Candy Case, Gelato, Yorkshire Pudding Express, and of course the UAE clan team, who have that fantastic way of marshalling their riders and using them to maximum effect. But the question will be, can they hold in these individually talented riders that make up what is the incredibly strong Belgian Waffles team? You've got riders in the Belgian Waffles squad, you've got riders in the Pavlova squad. Going to be really interesting now.
Now, what is really interesting on this screen in front of us is we are at the head of the race with our 3 category 4 riders who are leading on the road at the moment, and Michael Knudsen on our left-hand screen, who is leading this category 1 race. And it is starting to look at the distance between them. So 28.2 kilometers traveled for Knudsen, 30.9 for the lead on the road. So we are starting to see the distance that Knudsen needs to close if he wants to be first across the line today, and not just in that category 1 race, but in the race overall.
It is, and I think the timing is going to be very, very close indeed. I mean, fortunately for our handicapping team, the leaders of category 4 have really gone hard in that red jerseys. Meanwhile, look at what's happening. We've got Michael Vink, Saeed Safrazad surrounding Francis Ilpino, but Saeed Safrazad has gone on the attack. SS is covering Vink, so it looks like that UAE clan team looking to move bodies up the road. It's absolutely critical. You just see top right hand side the picture of Francis Ilpino actually just about to be mobbed on the way through. Top left hand side, that's the leaders in category 1. Category 2 leader Francis Ilpino, right hand side. We've got the lead of category 4 in our bottom right hand screen, and bottom left hand screen, this is the leaders in category 2. Now, leaders of 4 and 3 at the moment are clear of the race leader for category 1. And it does mean that there's a lot of work because Michael Dustin still, I think, sitting in 14th place overall. And you can see right-hand side of your screens that, in fact, up to 13th place overall, you've got the numbers of those riders in this group. You've got some very fast-moving category 3 and 4 riders, and that is going to assist our solo leader of category 1 in trying to stay clear. Remember, we have got 45k in total with all of our leading groups pretty much either approaching or beyond that 30k mark.
Yes, so we are back in with Michael Knudsen, so our leading category 1 rider, who is well clear now of that chasing pack at 29.98 kilometres on the road. He is nearly a full kilometre down the road from Mr. X100 and Syed Safrazad, Michael Vink, Ricardo Paniza, the riders who are chasing hard in that category 1 race. That his timing to absolute perfection of that attack by Knudsen and that time trial effort that he's continuing to maintain to pull away. He's now got around 13.9 kilometres to travel before he hits the final slopes of that category 4 Mount Pleasant climb for the finish of this race today.
So really interested to see. Say Safradaz went down the road. Mr. X100 went to go with him. Pavlo Popovic is there. 3 riders from the UAE clan team who are working incredibly hard together. They are not letting up. But watch for SS when he flicks up on your screen. A rider who is looking very, very strong again. So we've got Saeed Savrazar, we've got SS, we've got Pablo Popovic and Mr. X100 all in that group. 4 riders from the UAE clan team. And at the moment, the only rider with a time gap in front is going to be Michael Knudsen. So Knudsen is going to put a head start for his team into that team competition. But behind all the rest of the riders are all together. And that's going to be really interesting. It could be that Knudsen's solo attack could bring home that win in the team competition as well. And that would be a great payday for Knudsen, taking the win in both. Can he do it? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. We are over 2/3 race distance covered for all of our category leaders in 4, 3, 2, and 1. And that means that we're going to be heading into some of the critical stages of the racing, not least of which is this turn coming up now. So this left-hand sweeping bend around here, you can see the road up above. Knudsen is on it. This little kicker here is absolutely critical because the slope goes to 12.5% on the steepest section of that roadway coming up, and it's an absolute splitter of groups. You can see at the moment he's up to 11th position. I think that is about to become 10th, so he's going to be into the top 10. He goes up alongside Eduardo Parizzi, and that gap is definitely holding at the moment. Time-wise, I think it's almost identical. It's come down slightly in distance to the chasing group behind, and we are seeing the riders who are strong coming to the fore in category 1. So right-hand side of your screen, it is our race leader for category 1, Michael Knudsen. The chasers behind on the left-hand screen here. They're going to come in to that sweeping turn. So the left-hand screen at the moment, and in fact, up onto our big screen, brilliant. This is going to be really interesting now because Mr. X100 is rolling into this steep curve here. You're going to have to see a big kick from these riders. This is Vink's traditional breakaway territory, and I think he's gone for it here. You can see the gaps are starting to open out, and Mr. X100, I think, has been caught a little bit on the back foot by that steep increase in gradient, and it looks to me like Martins and Nair, they are gone from the group. Vujasin and Noran in front, the back of that group. Mr. X100 here having to put out some big watts to get himself back on. He eases and he kicks again. He's using the kick and ease option to try and get himself back into the pack. A critical point because the road captain for the UAE clan team now has to push. He can see the group in front are going to disappear if he's not careful, and that is going to leave him in trouble. Will he bring back some teammates to help? bring him back into the fold. That little bit of a sweeping turn, we said it was critical. It's not just critical in the front, it's also critical for who can continue to push. So the chasing group is split now behind. We've seen Nair, Martins, and now Mr. X100 be distanced from that group. It's only at 4 seconds, but it is opening, and Mr. X100 has to put in a massive time trial effort. As he does that on the back of the group, I think we're seeing another attack on the front of the chasing group as well, and that is not going to help him as they go through. But look at this. Michael Knudsen has now caught the leaders in Category 3. Lopez, Phillips, and Restrepo, along with all the rest of that group, have been caught. So Dawson has seen Michael Knudsen come through. He's caught the leaders in Category 3, and that leaves him 3 riders up the road to chase. They are Category 4 riders, but they have 43 seconds
and 600 meters. That is all. And there is still over 10 kilometers of racing to go,
including our final time up the climb of Mount Pleasant here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Our December finals are starting to reach their crescendo here, and their ascent up to our summit finish on top of Mount Pleasant. Our leaders on the road on the right-hand side of your screen. We have 3 riders in Category 4 still clear. A massive roll of honour, because they're going to be the last of our riders who are going to get caught. Andres is right in the mix. So Andres Castano Acevedo, we have got right up in the front of the mix. So we've got Ledo Rodo Mendoza, and we've got Michael Suarez. They are the 3 riders who have held off Michael Knudsen so far, but Knudsen is on his way. And if he were to fail, it's not that far behind that you've got the Category 3 leaders, our Category 2 leader chasing the Category 1 chasing pack. It is all left on the road already, and there's still lots more climbing. Has anybody got anything left in the tank? Is there something in the back pocket that they can pull out? They're going to need some serious jobs. But look at this, another attack on the front here. Michael Vink has been marked up by Saeed Safrazad. They have a gap of 3 to 4 seconds to Safrazad's teammate SS and to Vink's teammate Ollie Jones.
Yeah, and this race is continuing to keep going in this Category 1 field today, as we see Safrazad and Vink push on and put a small gap now into that chasing group, which you can see behind, including Jones, SS, Vijasin, Popovic. Do you know, Matt, I think we've got 3 teams in this Category 1 race in really close contention at the moment. The UAE clan team are still in there in numbers. Belgium Waffles have still got the numbers in that front section, as well as the Danish Pavlovas.
So Pavlova with the man in the driving seat, Knudsen, Vink on the attack. A UAE clan team mixed in there. In Category 2, Ilpino leading top right-hand side of your screen. Category 3 leaders, the bottom left-hand side. And Category 4 leaders, your leaders on the road. It's Category 4 at the moment. They are being chased down, but the gap is still there, and they've done an amazing job of staying clear this far. Now, just seeing the group come in and through here. Mr. X100 is in with this group of riders. They are chasing. He made that move back in, but we still see riders up the road. Michael Knudsen is the man now. He's just gone past those Category 4 riders. He was absolutely flying so fast as he came in and through there. And you can see, look at the distance he's putting in, because he's a man on a mission.
Yeah, he is indeed, as Knudsen continues to push. Knudsen is now clear, and he's now front of the race as well. So Knudsen pushing on, and he's not letting up on that pace. So Knudsen now Category 1 leading rider, but also our leading rider on the road today.
So now we are right up into the battle. This is where things get interesting. Let's see how this is going to play out.
Yeah, so Knudsen continuing to push, and the riders on the road behind. We've got these 3 riders in this Category 4 race as we watch Knudsen here. Knudsen is continuing to push. He's not changing his tactics. This pace is staying steady, and it is still working strongly for him. So we drop back into our chasing group and take a look at the distance that Knudsen has now pushed onto. So 37 kilometres now covered for Knudsen. The chasing pack are over a kilometre behind. As we drop in with Syed Safrazad, SS is there, Bart van der Netkout is there, Johan Noren is there. This is still a large group of Category 1 chasers really trying to push on and make some dent into this. But I think Knudsen is now pretty much clear, and it's got to be something really happened to Knudsen for this lead now not to take him into the finish. As Safrazad here is pushing, but Vink has gone to the front of this group and Vink has attacked again. Ollie Jones is going with him. Pablo Popovic, Bart van der Netkout is there as well. But there's starting to be a little bit of daylight, and the group is starting to stretch again. The pace comes off the front there, and the group slowly starts to snowball back together again as we start to see another little push coming on. Popovic isn't going to let it go. He's going to keep pushing. You know, there's only just over 30 seconds now to that group of Category 3 riders up the road ahead of them. That's the next group they're going to catch, as this large group of Category 1 riders still works hard to push together and come. The pushes on the front are not doing the damage because the riders are able to come back together and the groups still stay.
Oh, here we go. Race on as the time ticks, as the distance ticks. And we still have, I'll tell you something, that group of Category 4 riders, absolutely right. Could well be rider of the day if it wasn't for that Michael Knudsen put in what was a perfectly timed attack. And he has been planning on going for the win. We know that. I know a lot of the riders in touch with Emma. Don't forget, of course, if you want to let us know your tactics in advance, we really appreciate that. It is very, very much key to helping us out.
To pass them on.
But of course, if in doubt, get in touch. Make sure you follow us on social media. It's MyWhoosh on Instagram. On Facebook, it's my_whoosh on Twitter. And of course, you can get hold of Emma at Biking Emma. You get hold of myself, Matt Fixer Payne. We are watching the racing though all the way through, and we'll be picking up those messages, I'm sure, post or race. Far too much going on in the race for us to look at them now, because we are seeing Michael Vink and SS now make the catch here as they go over the top of the leaders in Category 3. And they've got the Category 4 leaders in front. And again, you're seeing a little bit of a push that I think Dadson, again, just being very, very smart here by sitting in and just trying to stay with them as long as he can, because that could give him that little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, and look at Dadson work there. He's really working. And I think either they've got you in their ears, Matt, or they are paying attention because the rest of the other 4 in that lead of that Category 3 race were not having it. There's a bit of a climb here and a bit of a stretch. And the Category 1 riders are pushing on, but those Category 3 riders are really digging in hard, because this is their race win too that's important.
It is, and really interesting to see. I mean, we came in, you saw that group coming together, and that is proving to be the trigger point. Use the confusion, use the massive riders on the road, just like you would do on a handicap race, or you would use in a Madison on the track. You'd use anytime a group comes together with another group of riders or a lap group of riders. That is when you use that confusion to go away, to put an attack in, to give you, might only be a fraction, a tenth of a second, a hundredth of a second confusion, or people not being quite as aware as they would be. And that can be the difference between a race win. We see it time and time again where positions are decided by fractions of a second, even when you've got big finishes. And particularly when a team race is at stake, that is going to be key. So we have Michael Knudsen in our race lead. We have our Category 4 leaders, and immediately behind you can see the yellow jerseys coming behind. And tell you something, it's a bit like we need some Jaws music at this moment in time. Because they are coming. You can see Michael Vink, Pablo Popovic, and Syed Safrazad, Ollie Jones now. Here they come. And Jones is taking advantage of this. We're at 39.1k. We are coming in. And look at this. Jones has decided now is the moment. He's going to go for that. He's used that little bit of a springboard. Jones, the master of going to the front when it really, really matters. He's gone clear now, and he's got a little bit of a gap. But look at this. Michael Vink's going with him.
Yeah, and Vink has just seen the damage that Jones has put in and decided that he's going to close that gap, and he's closed it really quickly. So Vink closes in on Jones, Osborne in 4, SS in 5. These riders are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on the road. Our Category 1 riders are now the head of the race road on the road, as well as Category 1 today.
Well, here we go. This is the fight. They've got Michael Knudsen up the road, 1 minute 45. He's on the left of your screen. The chasing group on the right-hand side being led out at the moment by Mr. X100 in that aero helmet. Osborne going over top. SS comes over the top as well in the yellow aero helmet. You can just see everybody at the moment really is trying to push on here. And I think this is where we're going to see the team from the UAE clan team potentially decide what they're going to do. They're going to have to make a move here if they want to take the team win, because the problem they have is that the teammates of Knudsen in Jones and Vink are sat in with them, and we are coming into that climb. The final climb, 2.4k long, and of that, it has a downhill in there as well. In the middle of it, it has a little drop in the middle of the section of the climb. That is going to make it very much the case that those riders who have some explosive power left, who can climb, are going to be able to come to the fore. So Category 1, lead of the race. Category 2, behind, chasing hard and trying to get up with Il Pino. You got Category 3. Mixed in with Category 4 lead at the moment. The Category 3 and 4 are together, and they're on the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, they are indeed, as that race in all the categories is really hotting up as we move into the final stages of this race. But Mr. X100 and this group, this is still a very large chase group in this Category 1 race. And you're right, Matt, someone is going to have to go and someone is going to have to put some power down. But I think it's going to come to the latter stages of this Category 4 climb when we hit the final slopes of Mount Pleasant towards that finish line that we're going to see that group break up.
We are indeed, and I think it's going to be critical. Just taking a little bit of a look, trying to catch a look at Category 2. I think we are going to see that coming back a little bit closer together than maybe it was. But this Category 1 race, I mean, we've seen riders like Mr. X100 get dropped off the back of the group, fight to come back on. That all takes energy. That all is requiring a lot of work to get back into the pack. But I think at some stage, everybody has been under the cosh today because of this attack that's gone clear by Michael Knudsen. And the only riders who've had an even close to easy ride, Vink, along with his teammates. I think, actually, do you know what? They've gone on the attack as well. So everybody's been giving it absolutely everything. I'm not sure anybody's going to have anything left on this climb.
Well, it's smart riding, isn't it, by the Danish Pavlovas today? Obviously, coming into the finals today, everybody thinking and marking Vink, and they sent one of their other riders down the road. So Knudsen went down the road instead, and he went down the road quite early. And actually, Vink's role today has pretty much been to close down any of the gaps and any of the attacks of this group to try and catch Knudsen. And he's done that very well. When we've seen SS attack or Pavlo Popovic attack, Vink has been the one to close that gap, or even Jones, which is quite interesting. But it's been an interesting race tactic, and now it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the latter stages of this race. In fact, we've only got 3 kilometres left for this group now to get to the finish line. 3 kilometres that are pretty much uphill, I should say. But this team competition is absolutely anybody's at the moment.
So let's put this out there. Michael Knudsen, 1 minute 20-ish ahead on the climb. At the moment, is on that climb. He's working hard. He has a gap. He's a Everesting champion, but he's been out the front. He's done a lot of work. Can he be pulled back in this distance?
No.
That was a really decisive no.
I am adamant. I'm
Nail
looking
your
at
colours to that mast.
I am. I'm looking at Knudsen's heart rate at the moment. I'm looking at the distance he's got left to travel. He's got just over 1.7 kilometres to go. His heart rate's at around 176. He's still got range. He's been managing his effort, and he's still managing his effort. He is on that final climb, but he's not changing his pace. His pace is still at the time trial pace that he's been using. He is not feeling the need to push on harder. You know, the gap is there. I think he will carry this straight to the line.
Well, we'll see if that's going to be the case. He has the first part of the climb to finish, the descent and then the climb, but this is the battle behind. This is going to be absolutely critical. The team from the UAE clan team need to go hard enough to drop teammates of race leader. They are going to want to, if they can't take the top spot, they will want to take second place. And that means they're going to need to dispatch some of the other riders in that group. They all know that every single second will count and they are on that climb. So this is where it's going to be key. We're just starting to see the chasing group fracture. One rider just continuing to push on to try and go clear at the front of the chasing group. And at the moment, the chasing group is not in the mix. Riders starting to get distance behind. This is going to cause problems here. So we are just seeing SS go up the road here. Real interesting move. Popovic is behind, but I think SS is looking to claw some time back. Now, if SS can get some time back on Knudsen, Popovic can do the same on some more of the teammates of Knudsen. This is going to make it much, much closer, but a great moment to strike from SS. And look at the revs. That pedal cadence at 100 as he went over the top there. He accelerated up over the top. He didn't ease off at all, and he's continuing to kick.
Yes, because SS is a tantamount tactician and knows how to use the algorithm and knows how to use the momentum on MyWhoosh to his benefit. And putting in that additional dig over the top of that climb means that he was putting the power down and gaining that momentum off of the down to really keep his pace high and to move it up, rather than taking a rest at the top and then rolling over and actually the speed being lower. So absolutely making the use of momentum. And we've seen that time and time again from our riders who ride a lot on this platform. They fully understand the use of momentum in racing.
Well, we're starting to see the gap come down now between Michael Knudsen and SS. That gap is now looking at being around about 30 to 35 seconds. It's yo-yoing a little bit. We're going to see how that's going to play out. SS, though, being closed down a little bit, but we're seeing the cracks start to open in the group behind. SS is got the gap, but look at this. He's just picking the pace up. You could see they were coming. He dropped to 3.2, and now he's kicked again. Really strange tactic there. Just easy enough. Maywell just needed to just put in a little bit of recovery there to kick on again. But I think he's blown here. I think he's in trouble. Pablo Popovic is taking up the running now. So SS went on the attack to try and open up a gap. He's gone out of the back. And now Pablo Popovic is the nearest rider. He's got a train of riders behind, including his teammate Saeed Safrazad. So is that an ultimate tactic by the team from the UAE clan team to sacrifice SS to get Pablo Popovic or Saeed Safrazad? Safrazad is a race winner on top of a climb up in the UAE, up on the top of some of our big climbs, as is Popovic. Popovic and Safrazad, two great climbers. They've got Jason Osborne, though, on a bit of a mission here, a regular winner on the Sunday Race Club early on in 2022.
Yes, but Knudsen now has got about 160 metres to go before, and in fact, if he lifts his head, he can see that yellow banner just over the brow of that climb. We're taking a look back down the road behind him, and we can see the rest of those Category 1 racers coming behind, but I think he's going to stay clear. He's got just around 100 metres now. That banner is coming as Knudsen continues, even though Osborne is putting out big watts behind. Knudsen is pushing, Knudsen is pushing, Knudsen is going to stay clear just, I think, to take this win today. Cracking racing by Knudsen to take the win.
Here comes the battle for second place. Who's going to get it? It's two teammates, Saeed Safrazad and Pablo Popovic, come in through the line. They've opened a gap on Osborne, who's going to take fourth place and third out of the chasers. Then it's going to be Vink. So Knudsen breaks Vink's winning run. It's Knudsen, Popovic, Safrazad, Osborne, Vink. Bart van den Eekhout within a storming ride here today. Great ride by him. Really improved up through the rankings. Jan Noren with the same, and Lionel Vujasin putting in a storming performance. I mean, what a finish there, Emma. You can see just how hard they were working.
Yeah, amazing racing by our teams today. And wow, look how close that team competition is as well. So Knudsen taking the win in 1 hour and 7 minutes, 51 seconds. Said Safrazad in 2, Pablo Popovic in 3, Jason Osborne in 4, Michael Vink in 5, Bart van den Eekhout in 6th, Johan Noren in 7th, Lionel Vijasin in 8th, and Ollie Jones in 9th, and Mr. X100 rounding out the top 10.
So the team prize will go to the Danish Pavlova squad, who finished all 4 of their riders in the top 9, the fastest 3 riders in the top 5 today. The UAE clan team will take the second place in that team competition. So you can see Mr. X 100, Saeed Safrazad and Pablo Popovic, the riders who took their top 3 positions. Don't forget, of course, all of the results are going to be up on the MyWhoosh.com website. So make sure you click on there. And of course, come and join us for more racing. We've got lots more action going to be coming up. We've got all of our category riders on the way in to the finish. You can see riders spread out and across the whole of the Wollongong circuit. We've got riders basically from the summit out and around. We've got lapped riders further down. So we're going to have lots of riders making the way into the finish in that battle behind. We're looking down at the leaders in each category at the moment. It looks like that group of Lopez and Co. in category 3, Andres and Co. in category 4, but we're in with Francis Ilpino, who is leading from Krasnich by about 1 minute at the moment in category 2. So Francis Ilpino will make it 2 out of 2 on these staggered starts. In category 2, he doesn't take the overall win, but he will be walking away with the top individual prize. The battle in category 3 is going to come down to the line. They're well up the climb. But look at category 4. That is close as well. But it looks to me like it is Acevedo who has the gap. It's 37 seconds on Mendoza. So all these categories having an absolutely brilliant battle all the way up to the finishing line here today.
They are indeed, and that category 3 race is just about to come to an end as Restrepo can see that banner, but Lopez is right with him, and so is Phillips, and Simiano is. It's a line of 4, and who's going? And Lopez is going as Restrepo can respond. And oh my goodness, what a finish to that category 3 race today! Absolutely fantastic riding by all 4 of those category 3 riders. As we scroll through to take a look to see who took the win there.
Oh, yes, get in. Fat and Furious, 17th, 18th, and 19th overall. Semio, Lopez, and Restrepo. Not that I have favourites, but it's a great team name, let's face it. That is absolutely cracking. Good ride by Michael Phillips in as well. So that's our top 20 riders in and over the line. We still got Ilpino and Andreas and all the rest of our race to come in. Make sure you catch up with those results. We've had an amazing finish to December, Emma, in our finals. It's been an absolute cracker. I'm sure you're looking forward to January.
Oh, when we all start again. So yes, indeed, if you are wanting to join the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, January is a great month to do it. Join us next January for Qualifier 1.
And before then, we're going to round out our December month with, of course, the women's race. So join myself, Matt Payne, and Emma, and all of the team at MyWhoosh will be back for the women's race very shortly. From Emma, from myself, and all of the team at MyWhoosh, stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.